few years ago I began to develop a pain in the bottom left-hand side of my back, and after a period of time ended up down at the A&E at the QMC down in Nottingham there, and they run some tests on me. Discovered that I was suffering with a kidney stone. They did some treatment, and a few weeks later I went back to see the consultant, and he said to me, "Stephen, the only advice I can give to you is for you to drink a pint of water with every meal that you have." Well, I've struggled with that on and off over the years, sometimes been better at it than others. The thing with the UK is that our climate rarely generates a need for thirst, and so it's not something that we're too familiar with. If we go to the scriptures and look at the Bible, Psalm 63, David there talks about his thirst. He's writing this particular psalm out there in the desert where the sun's beating down day after day, and he cries out, "O Lord, you are my God. My soul thirsts for you. My body longs after you." He's speaking there not just of the thirst of the body, but he's talking about the thirst of the soul. It was Augustine, one of the early church fathers, who said, "Our hearts are restless until they find their rest in thee." Again, what he's talking about is this thirst, or this desire that we all have, a need to find meaning and purpose in life, a need to have those deep longings within our hearts satisfied. On one occasion, Jesus turns up at one of the Jewish feasts. It's called the Feast of Tabernacles, and takes place in October every year. It comes at the end of a really hot season and a very hot time when there's been no rain for over 6 months. And the traditional part of this feast is for the people to come together to celebrate, but also to call upon God for the rains to come for the next season so that the crops won't fail. It's on the last and the final day of that feast that the priests would have performed a water ceremony. They'd have got all the people together, and they'd have shouted and had a really joyous time. It would have been a really joyous occasion. And part of the idea of that was that they'd make such thunderous noises that it would remind them of their need for rain and commit themselves to praying to God for that to happen. On this occasion, Jesus came into the situation, and he stood up in the midst of the crowd, and in a loud voice he shouts out, "If anyone is thirsty, then let him come to me and drink. And out of his innermost being there will flow rivers of living water." He went on to say that he was talking about the Holy Spirit that the Father would send to the earth after he had returned to the Father in heaven. Whenever we look in the scriptures, we see that this idea of thirst is clearly identified. But it's not just a thirst of the body, it's actually a thirst of the soul. And the promise of the scriptures is simply this, that if we turn our attention to God, if we look to him, and if we come to him, we can discover that that deepest longing can be met by him. If anyone is thirsty, then let us come to him and drink. He is the source. He is the one who can meet this at the point of our need. He is the one who can determine and quench our thirst with a life-giving water. So my hope, my aspiration for all of us is that we will discover this God, that we will discover that in Jesus some of those longings can really and truly be met.